Hi, I'm Shivan Sarna, and we have a very special session today with world-renowned SIBO expert, Dr. Allison Siebecker, as my co-host. Hello, Dr. Siebecker.
Hello, everyone.
And with Dr. Andrea McBeth, who is an innovator in the world of gut health. She's a naturopath, and she's also the founder of Thana Postbiotics, which we're going to get into. Like, what the hey? What? Wait a minute. And what does this have to do with poop? And is it gross? So we're going to talk all about that. And Dr. Siebecker and I have been wanting to talk to Dr. McBeth about this for, I don't know, over a year. Dr. Siebecker, give me the backstory on this one.
Oh, yeah, way more than a year. So Andrea and I know each other. We went to medical school together. And Andrea, I knew, created this really innovative product that's a postbiotic that we're going to talk all about. And she created this years ago. And so we wanted Andrea, as soon as I knew about this, we wanted her to come and talk all about it and tell everybody because it's so revolutionary and amazing. But it took a while till it could be gone through all its approval process to be for sale to everybody. And for a long time, it was just for practitioners. And so now it's available. And so we're like, Andrea, come tell us all about it. So Andrea, let me just turn it over to you and just tell us a little bit about your background and get us going.
Yeah, I'm so excited to be here. I have been part of the SIBO universe since I was in school, and GI health is really my passion. I became a naturopath after being a scientist, a molecular biochemist, researcher, and I've always thought about all the cool things that we do with diet and supporting patients who are really sick but kind of fall out of the conventional system, and how powerful that is. And I always wanted to understand mechanism of, why what we eat and drink and think matters so much. And so when I had the opportunity to work with one of our other colleagues, Mark Davis, in fecal transplant, I was excited. I was so excited. It was like my dream come true. And that work evolved over many years with collaborating to eventually open a stool bank and work in fecal transplant, which I can define and we can get into, but it's kind of what it sounds like. And then from there, think about the chemistry of the microbiome and how do we create the next generation of probiotics and nutrients that help people whose microbiomes have been really devastated by our lives that we live here. And so that's sort of the shortest version I ever give of me. And I was a clinician, naturopath, a scientist, and now I'm a CEO, entrepreneur, bringing this product to I think everybody should have access to healthy poop because some of us really need it.
I love it. Okay, so because I totally want to ask all about like FMT and fecal microbiota transplantation, but can we first just say the name of your product and just very briefly what it is?
Yeah, so Thana is the name of the company. And so then we named the product ThaenaBiotic because it's classified as a postbiotic. And so those are the small molecules or components made when we heat kill a probiotic, for example. So you have prebiotic that bugs eat, the probiotics are the bugs, and then the molecules or metabolites or things that come when we heat kill them are the postbiotics. But the ThaenaBiotic is unique because it's actually a mixture of all the healthy signaling molecule postbiotics from a healthy human's gut microbiome, and that's in the form of their healthy stool. And what we do is we sterilize it, meaning we take out all the live bacteria and viruses and infectious disease risk. And I like to think of it as separating the ick factor from the good nutrients. And what's left is a freeze-dried powder that we put in an oral capsule that's sort of a super nutrient. And I'm sure we can get into some of the details of why we can't make all of these in our normal guts, but that's what it is. It's a postbiotic derived from healthy humans. And so we think of it as a human-derived postbiotic mixture.
Awesome. Oh, Siobhan, did you have something?
Explain to people who are not familiar with this term and the brilliant Dr. Mark Davis what fecal microbiota transplant is, because I know you're like, yeah, well, it is kind of like what it sounds like. But if you could take us through that, because I know there's some people here like, I have been thinking about that. Wow, that sounds gross, but if it works, I'm willing to do it. And other people are like, what, ladies? What?
I would just like to say I recently read an article about this is a tangent, but I'll get there. But there's a Korean skincare that's pigeon poop, and it's like one of whatever the most nutrient dense thing. And I think the reality is fecal transplant is the delivery of healthy human stool to a sick person. And it's been around since fourth Chinese literature. It's a standard of care in veterinary medicine. We only kind of rediscovered it in the West with this microbiome revolution of understanding that our microbiome is an organ that we sometimes lose or gets depleted. And so it was reintroduced to the US for treating an antibiotic resistant bug that causes really will kill people, honestly. It's
Is that
called
like
C.
stiff?
diff. Mhm.
Okay.
C. diff. And so the renaissance of fecal transplant came because this combination of us appreciating the microbiome is actually filled with healthy, good things we need, and this really bad disease that's opportunistic and kills people because we don't have any antibiotics left for it. And what happened was doctors at hospitals and a researcher from Australia named Thomas Brody came and started giving people fecal transplant, saying, hey, bring your husband's poop in, we'll give it to you via colonoscopy and repopulate your gut microbiome. And it was super effective, like super, super, super effective at curing C. diff. And so this kicked off a whole cascade of clinical trials and mouse models, and us starting to say, hey, the gut's connected to the brain, and the gut impacts the liver, and all these things that neurologists and endocrinologists would have said previously wasn't impossible, And now we have this evidence that if you could give somebody a fecal transplant and their, liver and brain and autoimmune, I mean, there's hundreds of clinical trials that have been done now in fecal transplant, looking at everything from C. diff to response to immunotherapy in cancer, to autism, to hepatic encephalopathy. And I love it because it just challenged a paradigm that the gut matters, which you guys know and your listeners know, but it was just a really cool way to say, here's the hard proof, matters. The caveat came with live fecal transplant comes with inherent infectious disease risk. And what we've learned is that both with the blood banking system is there's a lot we don't know. So we can't make synthetic blood. That's why we have a blood banking system. And similarly, there's a lot to poop we don't understand, but it comes with a disease risk of we don't know what we don't know. And so regulation and systems have been put in place limiting fecal transplant to just the use in C. diff or clinical trials. Hopefully that wasn't too much, but
Love it. And so how is your ThaenaBiotic product related to fecal microbiota transplantation?
yeah, so it's very distinct. I would say it's inspired by, but we took the concept and then said, well, what is it in poop that's not dangerous, but still could help people? And the answer was postbiotics. So those small molecules that are the nutrients that the bugs make and will autoclave, which is a heat sterilization that we use to sterilize medical equipment before surgery, right? So we're going to kill everything dead, separate out that infectious live component. And the question often is, well, if you kill everything, how does it still work? And the answer is these nutrients still can bind receptors and act as signaling molecules to change the environment of the microbiome. And we're learning more all the time. When we started this, we had a lot less of an understanding of the mechanism. And honestly, we're still at this tip of the iceberg, but preclinical work we've done and other basic science has really brought this concept of postbiotics as the active way our microbiome interfaces with us. And so it's really fun.
And so that means I have so many questions, and I'm sure Shivan does too. But so does that mean that like you're using a stool bank?
We have our own, and because we recruit healthy donors, so vaginally born, breastfed, never been sick, less than 5 antibiotics in their life, they eat organic, not ultra processed food, they exercise, people who have the benefit of a healthy microbiome. And we do collect their stool, but we immediately sterilize it. And so it is the same kind of process as a stool bank, but because we aren't concerned, I mean, we do screen for infectious diseases and things, but it's different in that we immediately turn that into, you know, a sterilized postbiotics
Right.
extract.
You don't have to worry about the infection
it
because it's
freeze
going to be
dried?
cute.
Is that what is,
Mhm.
am I thinking properly? That's freeze dried? Okay.
Yeah, so it's shelf stable. I mean, it really is better to not think of it as poop and to think of it as like a multivitamin nutrient that's in a powder form. But it does originally come from poop. So, you know,
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So many things have originally come from something and then processes happen to it and turns into something. So then I always think of, and I know I talked to you about this before, Andrea, but like the concept of postbiotic to me is like, all those years I worked in health food stores and we had all these acidophilus is all it was named back then, probiotics, and they would sit on the shelf and they weren't refrigerated way back, and everybody would buy them and there was no strain specificity or whatever, and they would get benefit. And so it's like it was probably all dead,
yeah.
and so that's what I think of why it is that probiotics can work even if they haven't been refrigerated or whatever because of the postbiotics that they've excreted. The prebiotic bacteria secrete metabolites, and then they're in that product even if it's
Yeah, and fermented foods. I mean, I think to be fair, we discovered this organ system 20 years ago, right? With
Right.
sequencing. We've been able to look at the brain and study other parts of our human physiology for hundreds of years or thousands of years. And so it's, I think it's fair we made some assumptions that turned out to be wrong, but they were based on sound, you know, understanding at the time. It's just that most probiotics aren't engrafting. They're not recolonizing our gut the way we originally thought, but they are conferring benefit. And that is something we've seen over time. It's just probably that the mechanism of it actually was a little different than we originally assumed. And I think that's the cool part about this is that probiotics still benefit us, but we can just start to think about it in a slightly different way and also reframe why fermented foods and polyphenols and prebiotics and fiber that you can tolerate when you don't have, the wrong system are really beneficial too. And I just think it's, again, more nuanced than we thought there was originally.
If you had to take a antibiotic for like something that was like you really needed it,
Yeah.
would you hear about taking uh Fluorostor, Saccharomyces boulardii, like is this a place where you with
Yeah.
ThaenaBiotics could come in handy?
I mean, I have obvious bias, but I, like many people this year, got kind of a weird bout of pneumonia. Don't ask me how or why, but I had bacterial pneumonia and it's the first time I've taken antibiotics in, I don't know, a long time. But I was like, oh, great. Okay. I can handle antibiotics. I'm not afraid. I mean, they're not good for our gut, but at least I knew I could take the ThaenaBiotic in conjunction. And the nice thing is it's already dead. So, I bounced right back. I was really relieved. We don't have clinical data. Obviously, it's a supplement, but I think conceptually, it's a really nice complement to restoring microbiome under any perturbation. And we think about all the things that we're bombarding our gut with: stress, antibiotics, antimicrobials that do help us, but still have, a cost, food, preservatives, etc. And this is a really nice tool to help us rebound. And I am not a I was a C-section baby with antibiotics. I mean, my microbiome is not the same as the donors that we have. So it's like a little bit of a hack for me to use their endemic microbiome that's happy and healthy to get me back on track as I took my, azithromycin or whatever.
So when you took the antibiotic, did you take Thana
At the
postbiotic
same
at the same time? Okay.
and
Yeah.
after. But, it's great. It's heat killed. So I just took it at exactly the same time. And I up the dose a little bit. I take it when I get norovirus or when I travel to Mexico or if I get backed up. I mean, I think that's the thing about this that's really nice is it's just it's sort of like a buffer for either tip of the microbiome dysbiosis.
That is
That's
great.
incredible. You've already just mentioned a bunch of uses. I wanted to ask you what you've seen all the benefits are. So you mentioned you could take it with antibiotics to help protect the microbiome and after. If you get a gastrointestinal infection, and just generally, if you are a person that didn't have the best start to your microbiome, which so many of us haven't, you could take it. What are some of the other uses? Yeah, go ahead.
I'll just say, I know you guys have people, so a couple things. We're a dietary supplement, so it's not designed to treat disease.
And this is medical advice, we know.
And we don't have the luxury of piggybacking off of decades of research and key ingredients like other herbs and
Yeah,
stuff.
this is cutting edge. This is
Yeah, so we have no clinical data. So anything I talk about, my personal anecdotes or our observational anecdotes from the clinic are very much that. They're anecdotes, and we don't have any claims related to treating even non-disease symptoms like constipation or
yeah,
diarrhea.
right. Because you just mentioned constipation. It has helped you. So
That is a caveat that's really important, but I do think of it as, again, the buffer of us protecting us when we get out of balance in either direction. And so what we do see, and what we've had patients anecdotally report to us is, and my favorite is to go to conferences, right? Because people travel and they haven't had a bowel movement for a couple days and they're pretty grumpy about it. And they take a sample pack and they come back the next day to the conference and they're like, I had the best poop of my life. And I'm like, that is my goal, to help you have the best poop of your life. And so I think that's the right place to think of it, is providing resilience to the GI tract. And interestingly, the downstream effects of that. And like I mentioned, all this gut brain stuff, I didn't expect to learn or see. But we definitely have patients that say it helps me feel better, helps my fatigue or insomnia. I mean, I did the podcast with the turd nerds recently, Dr. Alana Gurvich, and she uses it for insomnia, which I never would have thought in a million years to try. And she's an N of one, but it makes logical sense that all these small molecules are interfacing there. So it's a little wiggly answer to your question, but definitely both directions of GI motility, faster or slower. And the same way, when we feel like we've gotten a really good healthy soup or smoothie or nutrient filled thing that helps our brain chill, right? I kind of think of us all as walking around with scurvy and we don't know it because our microbiomes are so sad, and scurvy is the loss of vitamin C. And then you take, an orange and then you don't have scurvy anymore. But what if there's all these other vitamins the microbiome's making that we don't know, we don't have, because I think I've had, 100 rounds of antibiotics in my life, right? So.
Do you take it with food? Is that important? Or, because I just know people are going to be asking that, or does it
Yeah, the dosing is cool because it's very gentle and in general, right? But everybody's microbiome is different. And we have people do everything from like a half a cap, they open it up and take it, to, like I said, recently when I was recovering, I took like 6 caps a day or 4 caps a day. And I just break it up, 2 caps with food, because it's easier if you are going to get transient, you know, motility gets going or something, or you get transient nausea. I'm careful with all the vitamins I take. I'm just a sensitive human. So food is helpful. Some people say they don't need to take it with food, but I think as a new introduction, 1 cap a day with food, is a good place to start.
Yeah, that's such good advice. Anytime there's any supplement, if there's any chance of it disturbing the stomach or the GI, we say take it with food. Yeah. So, and then that usually helps that. Okay, so I know because of like legalities, you have to be careful, but are you able to go through other potential uses? And if not, that's fine. But like, what is it? What are the benefits? What do we use it for?
Well, we've been using it clinically for many years now with providers, right? And so our provider network is our education core. And we only recently, like a few weeks ago, opened this up direct to consumers. So I'm kind of learning how to navigate that. But honestly, I encourage people, if they don't have access to functional or naturopathic GIs to support them, our GIs use it for patients that they're like, I've tried everything, I don't know what to help you. Which is cool because then when it does help those patients, and these are GI people with, you know, if you have an underlying issue with, again, constipation or diarrhea for whatever reason or whatever perturbation you have, whether it's antibiotics or long-term chronic, right? This is a good tool. I like it when you're using antimicrobials or, you know, like a biocidin or a rifaximin round, or even with berberine, because it can support and help people like coming out of that too. And so I think in the context of the people you guys work with and communicate with in SIBO, there's so much we don't know about why people end up with SIBO or emo and how they get out of it. And so a good nutrient to help balance and buffer the microbiome is a great tool. Interestingly, people have reported it helps them with, you know, mood and concentration, again, anecdotally, but I didn't expect that. I didn't expect people to tell me it helped them with, you know, getting on a plane when the planes are scary.
Right. Well, I had this recently, well, in the past couple of years, where I had like a minor bout of food poisoning, and I woke up the next day with like a feeling of joylessness, which is very much not me. And
Yeah.
it was so profound and so acute that I
Yeah.
was like, oh my gosh, this is my gut. And then
Yeah.
after a couple of days when things had cleared, but you know, what's running that body chemistry, what's running your brain chemistry, everything you've been talking about. So for those of you who are like, I don't know, like just be a little more observant with beginner mind about how you're feeling in relation to your gut and your mood and your concentration and your ADHD alphabet soup, whatever you got going on, just in terms of like focus. It really does.
Yeah.
And brain fog makes a big difference.
And people who are chronically, I mean, I consider myself chronically ill because I have ankylosing spondylitis, but I was a really sick kiddo. I had Guillain-Barré and JRA and rheumatoid arthritis as a kid, and IBS throughout that, right? Like as a concomitant part. And I wasn't told that my mood was associated with my inflammation, right? We didn't think that back then. But if I was in a flare and I got on a plane, my sense of fear was discreetly worse, right? And over time, I learned that those things were connected just intuitively. And I think that has really contributed to my like my joy in helping people who were like, well, I was told I was crazy. I was told I was crazy that when I had, you know, my gut was mad, that my mood was off, and I had this sense of like panic that I couldn't name. Um, and now we just know so much more about the nerve. The nerves are innervated in our gut microbiome. They have receptors that are specific for postbiotics and specifically light up certain parts of our prefrontal cortex. So like, of course they're connected and would be sensitive to things when they get into inflammatory cycles, right? Like that's a logical mechanism to protect us when we're in periods of chronic inflammation.
Stress. How is it for kids? Is it as a nutrient for children?
Yeah, I mean, we don't have safety data, we don't know, so we don't formally recommend it, but we have providers that have been using it for years with the same way they use other supplements with peds. Okay, so I'll say this. The safety is, we spend a lot of time and a lot of energy looking at safety, right? And we autoclave and we pH adjust and we add citric acid. And so we do a really good job of making sure it's safe on the sterility side. And then we look at all the metabolites and they're in tiny, tiny fractions. There's tens of thousands of small metabolites and tiny fractions. And they're all stuff that is benign, like relatively in a cool way, right? Like, so we use this in zebrafish and rats and in other tissue culture models. And we looked at their gene expression and stuff. And these are all small molecules we've been interfacing with and co-evolving with since the beginning of time. And so I think fundamentally the gut is a reservoir of really non-toxic, potentially super powerful nutrients that we've just never, like, we used to go to the jungle or the ocean, or I mean, scientists still go to the jungle and the ocean to look for new drugs, but our bodies didn't evolve to tolerate those plant-derived molecules. And so we kick off a toxin cycle inside in our liver, right? But these don't do that. They're just the nutrients that our body is always making, which is super cool. And I think my soapbox and motivation for bringing this to market is that there's a way to help people have access to healthy microbiomes that isn't dangerous. And I think it's really important for us to start to think about, how do we protect our microbiomes, right? And the nutrients that these healthy people are making, because sometimes when we lose stuff, we can't get it back.
That's where I think this product to me is quite miraculous in concept, because it is just everything you just said. So many of us are born with already a deficient microbiome, and then the insults just keep coming. And what are we supposed to do? And this is really an incredible option because it's safe and it takes out that risk.
And I'm always wary of, like, I do, when you see people that are chronically ill, the last thing they want to hear is, I can help you get on track and it's going to take 2 years and it's going to be a slow and steady. And that sucks, right? Like, we want something and we want to feel better tomorrow. But it is about this gentle nudge back to balance in the right direction. And I think of it as a really great tool in that toolbox. Sure, people call us and say, this miraculously helped me with XYZ, but I would say the expectation should be a little bit more tempered, in that it's a really great tool to provide nutrients that some people can not get any other way.
You've mentioned it a couple of times, but if you could restate it, how are you getting your donors?
We recruit them. I mean, because I was involved in the fecal transplant space, and we're naturopaths and we have this extended community and we define health. I mean, what was crazy to me, and I don't know if you know this, Allison, but most of the stool banks in the US doing fecal transplant didn't ask their donors about their diet.
No, I didn't know that.
Right? And you're just like, but like, that's the most important part. I mean, yes, infectious disease risk is important, but Mountain Dew is not something I want I'm a donor. In the same way we don't want alcohol, or drugs or other things. But like, it was really important for us to take this knowledge that was built with other people, Dr. Carmen Campbell and people who early on worked in fecal transplant and thought about what defines health. And we still don't know what the answer is, but like, asking people what their diet is and thinking about finding healthy donors, and going so far as to say, what do you do for a living? And do you have a meditative practice? And do you have, not even do you meditate, but are you like a calm, easy keel person? Do you exercise? Until we know what makes a healthy microbiome and we can measure it, which I would argue we can't yet, that's a good proxy for what health is.
And you do ask those questions, is what I'm hearing. Is that, yeah. I mean, I'm glad you're asking about the occupation, because I was exposed to a lot of heavy metals working in the television station with a lot of merchandise in containers getting shipped from overseas. And I ended up having xylene in my body, and they wanted to know if I was a welder when I got the heavy metal test back. And like, not that you would know that if I said, oh, I'm a TV host, and like, that wouldn't be revealed. You'd probably be like, oh, that sounds nice, but in other contexts, if you're a farmer, you're going to be, and you're not an organic farmer, obviously they're going to be exposed to different things. So I'm really glad you're asking that. I think that's fantastic.
I remember when I was, when Mark was working, Dr. Mark Davis, who you mentioned earlier, was working in this field, and he described all the parameters for the healthy, I said, where are you finding these people? And it's just amazing they even exist. And at the time he said, oh, they're all the naturopath's children or, grown-up children because they hadn't had any antibiotics. They were given all organic food, etc. And so it's just amazing to even find these wonderful, healthy donors that you can use this from.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was gonna say it's like, and there's no one that's perfect, but we're in this like huge chasm, right? Like a not quite perfect, but like pretty healthy human compared to somebody like me who grew up in hospitals. That's like a chasm I'm never gonna cross with broccoli, you know?
Not going to kombucha your way out of it, is what I like to say.
I
Yeah.
mean, I love chia seeds and I do believe that they are fundamentally a part of all health.
But there's a limit to what they can correct. I just want to ask if you could explain a little bit more about what a postbiotic is. And I think you've told me that there are types because I only ever first heard the word postbiotic in relationship to your product years ago. And now it seems like everybody's using that word and there's all these products on the market called postbiotic. So can you talk about it?
Yeah, and I mean I had to learn the difference between sciencey marketing and science, right? Because I came from very conventional, like things have a definition and that's what it is. And I would just like to say caveat that postbiotics are a marketing definition. And so the consensus is wiggly. And the way that you're seeing it as a consumer could be everything from the lactobacillus that just is getting rebranded to a human derived product that's been pasteurized to kombucha that is just being called a postbiotic. And so how we define it at Thena and did from the early days is postbiotics are the small molecules that the commensal probiotics make when they metabolize, and metabolize means eat or process, right? They change the chemistry of a precursor to a signaling post molecule. And the other way I think about it is like you eat broccoli or a prebiotic, and then the gut bugs convert that to something like a short chain fatty acid like butyrate. And then that small molecule is the postbiotic. But when you're at the store, you're going to see it anything with bacteria in it will have postbiotics. So any probiotic will now put postbiotic on the label because it makes sense when you're looking at from keywords and branding. And then there's an ISAP conventional definition that says any probiotic that confers a health benefit that's been heat killed is a postbiotic. And so that's another definition. But I think just for the sake of our sanity, you have to just say prebiotic is the thing that the bugs eat. The bugs are the probiotics. And then the things that they make with that are the postbiotics. Because then you can go pre, pro, post, and it logically has a linear thought process.
Shivan, were you going to say something?
No, I was just going to what is it? It's
Pro,
post.
Yeah, that totally makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Okay, so you just mentioned short chain fatty acids and butyrate. Can you share with us some of the other molecules that are
Yeah. We've been doing, I mean, that's where we started this whole thing, right? I said, okay, well, if I autoclave the poop and look at the molecules, what's in it, right? And what we found was that not only are there all these beneficial molecules like short chain fatty acids and bile acids, and there's a new class called tryptophan derivatives that have a body of work, IPA or indole-3 propionic acid. There's inosine and spermidine and urolithin A is a postbiotic that's in our product and in other things. All kinds of cool stuff. Sphingolipids. I just like the way they sound when you say sphingolipids, but peptides are in this, dipeptides, small molecules that bind our human cell receptors and change the chemistry of the gut microbiome. And I have Excel sheets of tens of thousands of them, and we just like sort them and look at them. And I've written in lots of different versions of ChatGPT, classifying them and breaking them apart. But our product, they're just in really small doses. and they work together synergistically. And so people will say, well, what's in the product? And the answer is it's like a multivitamin, right? There's just a ton of these different classes. And we do have research about how certain ones impact gut wellness and immune signaling, but it's in much higher doses than in ours. And so I can't cite that directly, but it's the same idea, I think. If that's
Yeah,
a,
short
I
chain fatty
put
acids.
some blogs with like the breakdown of the categories. And if people want to get nerdy, it's super interesting.
Oh, I mean, just what you said is so interesting. I mean, short chain fatty acids, just when I just did a little bit of research on that years ago, I mean, it's almost an endless amount of literature on short chain fatty acids and each one of them and butyrate. And so I can only imagine, like you said, of course, that's in just looking at it and concentrated, but still, I imagine there's a lot of literature to support all the functions of these molecules.
And only like in the last 6 years have we started looking at them. So it's, 6 to 10 years. So it's super new research.
And what about for people going back to like dosing and, or just maybe like who this product's a good match for? We in the SIBO world, we have a lot of people who have histamine intolerance or MCAS and or typically those people often have mold exposure. And
Yeah.
these are our most sensitive patients and they react to supplements and foods and medicines. How tolerable have you found or have practitioners found this product?
Yeah. So I would say we also work with those patients, right? Especially when you're dealing with a population where it's like the docs are going to use this with the people who
Nothing's worked for.
code for, and they tend to be the MCAS most sensitive. And I am of a mind that I just want people to feel better and never feel worse. And so low and slow, open the capsule, put a half a cap into yogurt or whatever. It doesn't have a taste. I mean, it tastes like citric acid, if anything. It doesn't have a smell really. And just give it a try. It seems to help patients tolerate foods that previously they didn't tolerate.
Oh,
And
that's excellent.
hunch is that there's a component of this induces a little transient tolerance at a really low level to help you reintroduce foods. And so we've had many years of patients give us feedback that this is super helpful when they only could eat 5 foods and they wanted to reintroduce. They take a half a cap or a cap when they're reintroducing new foods to help them tolerate it. People obviously do have reactions because those sensitive patients, it is, and it's transient. It's like increased motility or some stomach cramping. And I would just say it's very, very infrequent. It's less common than I saw in other herbs like berberine and typical SIBO treatment. So it seems to be pretty gentle. And then, my other caveat is we have a money back guarantee. I want people to try this and feel like it's safe. It's not a live bacteria. It's not going to colonize or like, even if you didn't feel good and you decide you're not going to use it or you want to visit it later, right? After you've done some detox or you're not in the mold or, whatever. I want to meet you there. We have a 7-cap pack that's like a sampler. Or if you buy a 30-cap pack and it doesn't work, we have a no questions asked money back guarantee. And we're going to start collecting clinical data through an app tracker. And if you collect data for that, I'll give you a discount or your money. Like I just want to meet people where they're at. And if they're concerned, which is, a lot of trial and error in these patients, I just want people to feel comfortable giving it a shot. It is a good tool to give a try. And for some of those people, it really can make, the right step forward in that journey. So that's what I would say. I don't want to tell people there is never a side effect because I just don't think that's ever true, but I think it's very mild. I had a toxicologist work with me in the early days and she was like, well, it's safer than drinking tap water. There's more poop in tap water than in this. And I was like, that's terrifying.
Yes, that is terrifying. Yeah, that is terrifying. All right. Well, keeping it real, keeping it real. Appreciate it. What else
love
you got, Dr. Siebecker?
I just love both. There's two main points you said. First of all, that it can help with expand food tolerances because that's a huge issue in our SIBO population, huge. And the reintroduction of foods is so important and expanding the diet. So thank you for mentioning that. And also that there's the money back guarantee that you offer. That's incredible. You know, just thank you.
Is that 30 day? Is that a 30-day?
Yeah, so if you buy a 30-day bottle and there's just a form, all you have to do is say what your name is and your email. If you give us feedback, great, we appreciate it. If you don't want to, that's fine. I acknowledge that this is new. We don't have large clinical cohort data. We're piggybacking off work in probiotics and fecal transplant and all kinds of other things. And I don't know, I believe in accessibility. It like killed me to have
No,
all
it's
this
beautiful.
magical poop in the freezer and not be able to share it with people.
I want to just say, so I want to just encourage anyone who's like, you know what, I'm going to give it a try. This sounds really good. As soon as you get it, try it. Okay. Because that 30-day money back guarantee, don't be reaching out 45 days and going, well,
No, there's a limit, a 60-day limit. So if
it's
you don't
60-day
use
limit.
it,
Okay.
Oh, 60-day. That's very
60 days.
generous.
So-
Extremely generous.
When this is about like mom and pop companies, when you are working with a small, like family run business, like what we're talking about, I just want to make sure that you're very respectful of this very generous policy, just as advocate for you as a client and customer, and also for the manufacturer, because we get cranky sometimes when like we try something, it doesn't work, blah, 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 and you hear from Dr. McBeth the heart of how this is coming from her heart, her soul, her desire to expand healing throughout the globe and health. So please, okay, enough of that. You get the idea. Be respectful of the policy. Thank you. And try it as soon as you get it at home. Like, don't just stare at it. Because it doesn't work by just buying it. Okay. You have to use it.
Spoken from someone who's been there.
Been there, done that. Like, okay, I ordered it. Isn't that the same thing as taking it?
Andrea,
And-
do you have a bottle? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
there's only 5 of us. We're a small team. I've been trying to keep this company alive for many years. It wasn't like a logical thing to do.
I love it. Love it.
I mean, I just would say it's important people try it and give us citizen science feedback. And, you know, I want to help people, but no promises that this will survive, you know, in the
Yeah.
world we're in. I, it, I just think we should be able to have tools now that we know what we know about the microbiome, you know, in a safe way as much as we can. So I
Thank you.
appreciate that so much, Shivan, because people are like, oh, you're a big company. I'm like, no, there's 5 of us. And like, I cover payroll sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the microbiome, right? It's an ecosystem. It's delicate. There are a lot of factors. I think sometimes we don't talk about it enough, honestly. And it's something I like to point out because I've seen both sides, and because I really want you to stay in business so you can help more people. So this is an opportunity for everybody, and to support small, you know.
Thank you so much for getting the word out. When you guys said you wanted to do this interview, I was like, oh my gosh, it's like my big break.
Oh, please. We're so excited. Thank you for all of your good work.
I've been thrilled about this ever since you first started this. It
Siebecker
was
has been telling me about this for years.
Oh,
Seriously.
I mean, it's so special. It's so incredible, Andrea, what you put your heart and soul into, which is why I'm just so excited to share it the moment it's available to everybody.
Yeah, I know. Tell your friends.
Do you have a bottle there you can show us? Mine's in my freezer from a million years ago, that when you first started, and I think your label's changed. If you don't, that's fine.
The label, it's beautiful. I give them away. So I don't have like a mason jar of like, you know, no, it's not labeled. They're just regular pills.
Yeah.
We have a new beautiful bottle and a new label, and
Yeah, you have a really,
new
that's
packaging soon, and all the fancy bells and whistles. And
So,
a small team, so reach out if
yeah,
patients.
how can they get a hold of you? How can they get a hold of you?
ThaenaBiotic.com, info@Thana is our
Can you spell for us slowly?
THAENA.com. And I believe we're going to have an affiliate link with you guys. So
Sure.
patients can use your affiliate link and get $50 off a 30-cap bottle or $100 off a 90-cap bottle.
Nice. Thank you.
So definitely check that out and use the affiliate link. It'll be ThaenaBiotic.com / your affiliate link.
Okay. Thanks. So it's not inexpensive per se. Like this isn't going to CVS and getting a bottle of vitamin E or vitamin C or generic magnesium, guys. So just to be, you know, this is a very specialized process that if you've been listening, you can tell is really different and may have tremendous impact on you for the highest good. So thank you so much. We love you and we appreciate your work and we wish everyone the best of health.
Thank you so much.